Can Rag by Tony Peterson. I subscribe to a music service called Artlist.io, and there's amazing music that's out there. And so, yeah, that's what we're listening to. Hey, I'm here live with Colonel Ryan Nielsen. It's interesting to call you Colonel, right? It's really cool. You were such a wonderful, lieutenant of mine. But you realize over time, you grow up, you mature, you move into different jobs. And so, sir, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you. You and it's Miss Elizabeth, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. You were such a so when were you the platoon leader? When were you in the 82nd the first time?
Oh wow, that was November 97 till about October 2001.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
So I was a staff sergeant back then.
You were. Yep.
And you were I guess you were a platoon leader, and I was probably one of your section sergeants. Is that right?
Yeah, the second lieutenant, absolutely.
Oh wow, yay! That's so cool. Where are you from originally?
I'm from upstate New York, small town about 2 hours north of New York City.
What's the name of that?
The town's called Rhinebeck, New York. Right up in the Hudson Valley, about 2 hours north of the city and about an hour south of Albany.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's a little small town up there.
Yeah. Were you like a neighborhood kid riding a bike around, or were you out in the country on a tractor? Or tell me about what was your childhood like?
Yeah. No, it was just small town. We lived a little outside of town. My parents were both public school teachers. So yeah, we were just riding around, lived on a cul-de-sac, just riding around the back roads of town. And trying to think, my graduating class, I think, had 92 or 93 kids in it. So, small by most standards, big by some, I guess, depends on where you're from. But I think when a lot of people think of New York, they either think of New York City and, or way upstate, Fort Drum maybe. And
right.
I think a whole different country though.
Oh yeah, right. It's an interesting, when you get outside of New York City, New York becomes a different place. It's not what you think of it. It's not a metropolitan. It's, farms and beautiful countryside, and it freezes in the winter and it gets hot in the summer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we got a Sergeant Major Cooks with us. He's checked in a couple times. So love old Cook, and thanks for hanging out. We really appreciate it. Right, we're trying to tell stories that are kind of timeless. That's what this is about. Let me, if you don't mind, sir, just share a few things with you and everybody else that might be out watching. I just really want to take a moment to appreciate our donors, our master rated donors and our senior rated donors. Thank you so much for your gifts and your appreciation and your support for the show. Sergeant Major Ross, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you continuing to give the way you're doing, and really, really appreciate it. Williams, Jackman, Calderon, Hackey, Fernandez, Evans, Cobos, Wino, Ridgeway, Barrow, our master rated donors. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Joe and I, if I could take a moment and share with you our website and just kind of talk you through what this is about and where it started. It started with Maggot. It really did. It started when I found out that Maggot was sick and couldn't remember. And then it really, 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 really hit home in January of 2021 when Sergeant Mason, who was a sergeant in my unit, we found out he was sick and in hospice, and he couldn't even talk because of throat cancer. And I'm like, why haven't I continued to interview my heroes? And so Joe designed a coin and a T-shirt, and and we started doing this, and so, at the sir, we're going to be sending you a coin with a serial number and a thumb drive that's going to have our interview and also this tribute slideshow that I'm going to play for you in a little bit that I've stolen all your pictures off of Facebook and made,
Oh,
no. Yeah. So, I just wanted to share with you guys, that's kind of what this is about. And that's where it started from. I also want to take an opportunity, if you are interested in supporting us with merchandise, you want to buy something, here's our merchandising page. The link's in the thing. You hit shop here, and look at there. Look at that. That is so cool. I designed that for us. It's an Audacia with master wings. It's a T-shirt you can get right there. And all this goes to support Joe and I and what we're doing here in getting the stories of our heroes. And so my hero tonight is Colonel Ryan Nielsen, and it's so cool to be with you, sir. Thanks for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. It means a lot. How did you were you good in school as a kid? Did you pay attention? Were you wandering off somewhere,
Well, so we went to a small school district up in upstate New York, one of those central school districts where everyone goes to class together from kindergarten through 12th grade. And when you have classes that are smaller than 100 per class and both your parents are teachers in the same school district, you kind of have to toe the line because if you got in trouble, lots of times they would know before you did. So so that kind of has a natural way to kind of keep you paying attention to the things you're supposed to pay attention to. And yes, I don't know that I was necessarily the best student in the school, certainly, but did okay, and played a lot of sports in junior high and high school, and headed off to college, did the same, and then probably that's when you met me a couple years later.
So what was your sports?
Mostly football, and did some wrestling in high school, and track and field, did a lot of that. My wife likes to laugh at the fact I was a pole vaulter, and through the javelin. Yeah, so that usually gets the same reaction from most people. So yeah.
Well, you would need a pole, right? You were probably used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those that don't know, how tall are you, sir?
Not tall, not too tall, about 5'6". I still like to tell the story. I was 6 feet before I joined the 82nd Airborne. I was 5'6" when I left. Gravity and a lot of jumps takes its toll on you. Yeah, about 5'6", bad gravity day.
Oh, it was so So it's interesting, a part of being a paratrooper, and at least in our job, was being able to jump the Stinger missile jump pack. Yeah. And so you had to be 5 foot 8 inches in height or taller to jump the Stinger missile jump pack. And it's interesting. I have seen people stand on their tiptoes, and I've seen people shrink as short as they could possibly get to be either taller than 5'8". I mean, we had people that were wanted to jump. I want to jump it. You're not leaving me out. I'm going to jump it. I don't care if I'm, not as tall as everybody else, right? Exactly. But then you also had the guys that were 6'3", and they were like shrinking down, trying to get out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What position did you play in football? I saw your picture, your high school football picture.
There's a picture on there from high school.
18. You were number 18, I think.
Oh wow, yeah. So I was a wide receiver, like an all-purpose back, and played defensive back. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh wow, that's great, right? Oh well, let's watch the video. Let's watch.
Oh no,
it's unfair otherwise. So. Morning pancakes by the delegates. That's what I was able to steal off of Facebook and get put together for you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
update stuff very often. I guess that was a good reminder.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, Zuckerberg and he and I about to break. If I could get away from it, I would. But everybody that watches on Facebook. You know, go to YouTube or Twitch. Hold on, let me put this. If you're watching, if you're watching, let's see what is it live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and now Twitch. Find us on Twitch TV. Marshall in the middle. Yeah, this is this is a project that Joe Benson and I have put together, and we're trying to just get our stories told. And thanks so much for being with us and talking and being open to things. Tell me about your current job. You're a colonel in the reserves. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I stayed in, when I left active duty, I left the third of the fourth ADA in the fall of 2001, and I had already committed to stay on the reserves. And didn't know what I was getting into. Had no clue. Again, this is all pre 9/11. So, joining the reserve was just kind of something to do to keep the continuity with what I knew from being on active duty, since I really didn't know what I was stepping into next from a career standpoint. All I knew at the time was I was getting married, and we were heading off of Fort Bragg. And, while I was on terminal leave is actually when 9/11 occurred. And I actually remember calling back to the battalion. My last position was the assistant S3. So I called back to the battalion and said, hey, if we're all getting stop, lost, or recall, just tell me now so I can stop my leave, right? And, initially the S3 at the time said, no, it's going to be a special operations war. It'll be over in a couple months. So, so 2 tours later in Iraq and 25 years in the Army, basically stayed in the reserve. First tour was as a ground liaison officer, coordinating close air support for 8-10 units primarily out of southern Iraq. And then at that point, just stayed in, came back, was a company commander, battalion XO, became battalion commander, a couple tours in the Pentagon, brigade command down at Fort Jackson, South Carolina with a basic training unit. And then after brigade command in the War College, went back to the Pentagon. And now I'm the deputy commander for a training division out at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington.
Lord have mercy. Like you're going to be the president next.
No, that's the part-time job. Then I'm in the financial sector, my full-time job.
It's
good.
That's crazy. So that's just the reserve part. You're not even a full-time reservist.
No, I'm
is
not
that right?
Reserve. No, part-time. I've never been on active guard and reserve. I've been full part-time reserve the whole time, mobilized twice. But other than that, no, my wife and I have had civilian careers and, moved a couple different places, but all the reserve stuff other than deployments have been on a part-time basis.
How do you have a job in the Pentagon and it be part-time? It's like, I'll see you next Saturday.
So those are actually probably the ones that required less time. It was actually the times in command when, just like an active duty commander, you have a cell phone and people are calling you 24/7 with all sorts of things, because the same challenges the soldiers have on active duty and the same great things that happen to soldiers on active duty happens in the reserves. And nothing happens on that weekend. It's always sometime in between the weekends. And so so that keeps you grounded, but keeps you connected. And it's interesting how often I still run into folks traveling around to different installations, run into folks I know, and it's good.
Wow. So tell me about your decision to, come into the Army and how did that go? You're like, when you're growing up, you're just like, I'm going to be an Army officer. And no, what?
Yeah. So it was just, it wasn't one of those things where I came from a big military family. I had grandparents who were military, great grandparents who were military, but there was no pressure, no obligation. You grew up fairly close to West Point, so that was sort of like local news. But we weren't even in it's not like I grew up in Fayetteville or somewhere where there was a big military installation right there. So it was just something I had an interest in and pursued ROTC when I was in college and just started to really like it. And I think it was really probably when I went to airborne school between my sophomore and junior year when I really found myself probably more committed at that point.
So you went to airborne school as a cadet. Where were you going to college at?
So I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. So yeah, that that was my only experience with the military. It was basically just the stuff you're doing on campus with ROTC until I showed up at airborne school, and that was my first real indoctrination.
Isn't Penn like an Ivy League school?
It's categorized like that. It is.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so. So you're hanging out at the Ivy League school and decided you're gonna, join the Army and and the ROTC program and airborne school. What was it like jumping out of airplanes?
No, that was pretty cool. I think probably the most interesting part of that was, I think anyone that's interested that knows anything about the ROTC groups around the country, the units, they'll get certain number of slots to airborne or air assault or mountain warfare, some of the HUA schools, and lots of times they use them as incentives because they're, the ROTC is not trying to create the next jump master or the next, air assault, whatever. But so I was going through my sophomore year, and they said, okay, well, you have an airborne slot. They kind of use it as a retention tool, make sure you're going to stay on for this final
Oh
two
yeah.
years and go through and get commissioned. And then like right before school ended sophomore year, they said, oh, we lost all our slots. And I had no idea why. Who knows? It's probably budget or something like that. And so I go off into into that summer vacation, working a summer job. I get a call from the admin back at Penn, and she said, hey, I've got orders for you on my desk. You're going to airborne school in like 2 days. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, again, my experience with the Army was like showing up to class once a week, twice a week maybe. So I think I had like 2 pair of boots, a couple pair of BDUs at the time. Yeah, BDUs, that old, and and the gray PTs, and so she sends me a paper ticket, to fly to Fort Benning, Georgia, again from a small town in upstate New York. Never been to the deep South in the summer. Show up at Fort Benning in June and go through jump school. Didn't know anybody, no one else from the school. Go through there. I do remember both of my roommates were Naval Academy midshipmen of all things. But yeah, that was it. And probably had every reason in the world to say, what am I doing here? And find myself 3 weeks later jumping out of planes. So then I figured, well, maybe I should just keep on doing this. And that's why I
Yeah,
selected it.
yeah.
Try to brag.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. How did you choose your branch?
So air defense. So that's one of those things where a lot of folks be like, how did you end up air defense? A lot of guys try to fly helicopters or join the infantry or the armor, and honestly, the NCOs. And so you hear this from a lot of officers. I think over time that NCOs really shaped them. And my career path, active and reserve, is totally shaped and molded by the NCO mentorship that I've had. And we had a couple of NCOs that were assigned to the ROTC program at Penn that were air defense, and they would talk about it. A couple were short range, a couple were Patriot, and they just sort of influenced me into selecting air defense.
Amen. How about
Yeah.
that? How about that? Well, I always said that at least in the 82nd that we grew our own NCOs. The NCOs, you didn't come in as an outsider and make it many times in the 82nd and the 3rd or the 4th. You kind of had to grow up there, really. But as an officer, I felt that we were fed the best officers. I always thought that 3rd or the 4th, where we were in our airborne status and the things that we had going on, I believe our officers were handpicked, and you were one of those. And you're an amazing guy and an outstanding officer as a platoon leader. What do you remember being a platoon leader? It was an Avenger platoon back then, right?
Yeah.
Who was your platoon sergeant? Was it Hunter?
Well, so it was interesting. So when I first came into the battalion, so you come in just like everyone else. You come in through reception. I think we don't have to go through the reception unit. I think like the junior soldiers do. They just tell you to report to Corps G1, the reception point. Day one, who do I run into but a Captain Dwayne Boyer, who was also reporting, I think, on that day. And then, of course, being a lieutenant, they immediately shoot you down to the battalion. And they initially assigned me to the 3rd Platoon Delta Battery. And that's why Sergeant First Class Cook at the time was my platoon sergeant. And then about a month later, I don't even remember all the details, but some things had happened, and Charlie Battery was getting ready to do a big FTX, and there was a vacancy there. So they moved me from Delta to Charlie after a couple months. So I moved over, and first it was Sergeant First Class Santana.
Oh yeah, Santana.
Yeah, and then it was Sergeant Hunter, absolutely. So Sergeant Cook, Sergeant Santana, and Sergeant Hunter were my platoon sergeants. It definitely a huge influence on my early days on Fort Bragg.
Oh wow. Oh wow. That is great. That is great. So, do you have like a lost lieutenant story or something where you were out there flapping and you made a mistake or somebody helped you or anything like that?
I think that was most of my lieutenant years, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like
I'll
yes,
say,
all of them.
I mean, I'll say because I see Sergeant Cook on the line here, so I'll tell this story that it was probably I'd probably only been there a couple weeks, and they keep telling you, if you don't correct a wrong, then you've created a new standard. And that sounds all well and good. When you're a brand new lieutenant, you don't know anything. And I was really humbled. I would tell people I don't really know what I'm doing, so just kind of tell me. And if you remember where Delta Battery was at the time, we were located right next to reception, and reception is where the dining facility was. It was that joint dining facility. And so after PT, Sergeant Cook and I are walking over to Chow one morning for breakfast, and if you remember the berets and this insignia that a lot of units have look a lot like officer insignia, but a lot aren't. And so, those poor brand new privates coming in, they don't know if it's an officer or someone else walking by. And so I'm walking with Sergeant Cook, we're walking over to Chow, and all of a sudden I hear him just scream at some private walking by, grabs him by the collar and picks him up and puts him in front of me. And he just yells, he goes, "What do we do when we see officers in the 82nd Airborne Division?" And I don't know who was more scared, this kid or me. And the kid just looks at him and goes, "We salute them." And he goes, "I'm waiting." So the kid salutes me. I return the salute. We walked on. I don't even know if I could finish breakfast that morning, but that was a game changer for me. Is that, yeah, if you're gonna let a wrong pass you by, then you've created a new standard. And he taught me that right on the spot.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Cook says, I remember that. I remember that. Woo, woo. Oh, that's so awesome. That is, I could just see him picking this private up by the, because he was, dude, Cook was always huge, man. He just, and he had the elbow, he couldn't all quite straighten out all the time, man. It's like a crane, man.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. So, did you go to jump master school while you were in the 82nd? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so actually it was right after you got there, actually, to the platoon. And I think I was getting ready to go to jump master school, because I think each battery had a certain number of slots, every quarter or so on, and we had a little order of merit list. And I remember you came in and told us how you told me probably how you'd been a jump master and jump master instructor and so on and so forth. Well, I'm about to go to jump master school, and you immediately started making me do all the prerequisites just to make sure I would make it through and not embarrass you, probably. So
yeah.
So I will again attest it to the non-commissioned officers that you squared me away and made sure that I made it through. But yeah, I made it through as a platoon leader at the end of my platoon leader time before I became the battery XO.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Look, it ain't no joke. When you don't want your people around you to go and fail, and especially if you know some little tricks and things, and like if you go down there and you don't know nomenclature and you don't know pre-jump, come on. Right, because you got enough to worry about ahead of time. Don't go get in the school and then suddenly have to memorize pre-jump in 3 days, and and it's kind of silly. Look at Shim Dogs on the stream. Remember Shimmel, right? Remember Shimmel, right? Yeah, he just said hi. What's up? Huh?
One of the two of you maybe do PWAC, I think, like during that weekend in between those 2 weeks, like through the doorway.
Oh yeah. I guarantee you, we trained you up good. So, what were your memories of 3rd of the 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment and those times and those days? What kind of things do those days remind you of?
Yeah, I mean, those are. They set the standard for the rest of my career in the reserve, and quite frankly, my civilian career as well. So, This is really my first job out of college, if you want to look at it that way, after the basic course. So you come in there, and those are the first real jobs you have. So that kind of set the standard. And so everything I've done in the military ever since has I've used that as the standard. Everything I've done in my civilian career, it's not exact parallel, but you can draw a lot from it. And, all the attention to detail and, taking the time to make sure that all your soldiers and everyone around you, knows where you stand. And that goes a long way. And I thought there, like you said, it's probably one of the most professional organizations you could ever be a part of. And that really kind of permeates to everything else you do after that. And, I didn't go back to the 82nd just because I moved to the reserve component, but you never forget that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is amazing the standard that you realize is achievable when you're around people that are so successful. And that was what we were a part of in Third of the Fourth. I really believe that at every level. If you look at the folks throughout the years, they continue to be great people and wonderful leaders and mentors. And they were then and they are now, And who are some of the personalities that you remember back from that time? Our first sergeant was kind of a storied guy.
I barely remember him. Was his name Messiah? the Airborne Messiah, maybe?
Oh.
Yeah, swapping some stories with him right before this. Some probably should stay off the air so they don't get archived for all time. But yeah, so first sergeant, he definitely remember him coming in fresh out of Alaska. Right as we're getting ready to go to JRTC. We'd already packed up our winter PTs, so we're stuck in summer PTs in November in North Carolina, and he just walks out and just says, "It's balmy out here." And those are the time you gotta take that kind of humor with you wherever you go, and you learn from that. But I mean, who don't remember? You mentioned Schemmel, Tyler, those guys. They were there when I first got there. Some of the soldiers who I now see, on various social media outlets, it's wild to see that they're retired. Because I literally remember the day they came in as privates, Toomer and Bivens and, some of those guys. I mean, I remember the day they reported, and now they're retired. So it's great to see a whole career, but, and then some of the officers, between, some of the peers like Costello and Schmidt and, some of the captains that were there at the time, Dwayne Boyer, Mark Holler, colonels retired now, generals. It's just wild.
Yeah, it is neat to see the trajectory of the folks that we were around and with, and the great successes that are attributed both to them and their families, and just the wonderful, stuff that we're a part of. Tell me a little bit about your family. You have a sister. Is that one sister? Is that right?
So I have a sister and a brother.
Okay.
Grew up with a sister a couple years younger, a brother who's 11 years younger than me. So yeah, when I told him we were doing this tonight, and he misunderstood. I don't know if he's logged on or not, but he misunderstood the message. He thought the interview was from 20 years ago, and he said, Ryan, tape doesn't last that long; it disintegrates. So that we have that kind of relationship, and one of those things, just still jabbing each other, still acting like teenagers.
That's great.
But no, my wife and I, Elizabeth, we've married almost 21 years here now, in a couple months, and lived in North Carolina for a long time between Raleigh and we moved up north after we first got out, came back for mobilizations. Lived in Raleigh, Charlotte, and then now live in the DC area for the last 4 years in Alexandria, Virginia. So yeah, it's good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. They say there are no atheists in foxholes. Take a minute and share, if you don't mind, a little bit about your spirituality. I know that you're a man of some faith.
Yeah. So grew up Catholic in New York, and it's been good. And yeah, you join the Airborne, you find God real fast, right? Those things if not, you should find a really good substitute real fast. So, and certainly when you go downrange into combat zones like like, oh, there's my brother logging in right there saying he's here. So he's listening.
Hey, how about that?
So, yeah, you certainly, yeah, you certainly find, find some higher power to affiliate with. And then what's been interesting actually in my military career is as a battalion commander, and then again as a brigade commander, I had units that supported the Army chaplain school. And so the chaplain school has a basic officer leader course, and a lot, if everyone has been that's ever interacted with chaplains, you get a lot that are prior service, and you get a lot that are brand new. They have no military background. And so my soldiers, generally speaking, they'd go in, they teach sort of the tactical part, like, how to do soldier things when you're not doing your ministerial things, so that you can support the unit. And so that's been real interesting too, from a religious side, is to interact with the chaplain community in the Army, and as a reservist, but the active school down at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, they train everybody, the active, the reserve, the National Guard. And so that's been real interesting to interact with them, and to see how where they come from, and then how they branch out and support soldiers, both here in the U.S. I saw some of your earlier interviews talking about some of the the challenges that we face as military and veterans, with some of the suicide challenges, and the deep significance that the chaplain corps has, again, across all components. We've had some of the same challenges in the reserve component as active duty, and so it's you never get too far away from that.
Tell me about being a battery commander or a company commander. Tell me about that. That's becoming an adult, right? That's looking around and saying, okay, right?
Yeah. So yeah, being a company commander, so I commanded a headquarters company for a brigade in the reserve down at Fort Jackson, and hadn't commanded. So you come well, especially as a headquarters company commander, where about half your company outranks you. That's sort of an interesting. How do you exert influence when you can't actually exert influence through telling people exactly what to do? So you learn to lead through other means, I think. Although first sergeants, inevitably had the ability to still influence things no matter what their rank was. So again, influenced by my non-commissioned officers, had really, really great NCOs in the reserve side too. And then, and that was still really, that was 08 to 09. So we still had a lot of deployments going on the reserve side then. And as a training unit, we were getting tapped quite often to fill MIT teams, or PRTs, the provincial reconstruction teams, because when you come from the training divisions, a lot of folks have very different MOS backgrounds. And so when those requests for forces come down from the active or the reserve component, they're looking for very specific folks. So I had to deliver that message a couple of times to to people. Hey, you have to tell your employer, you have to tell your family that you're about to be mobilized and deployed, and lots of times it's not even with the unit on the reserve side. You, as an individual, hey, you're getting plucked up and sent out, and you're going to go downrange into a danger zone with people you don't even know. And so so that was sometimes a tough conversation to have when folks thought that they were hanging out in the reserve side, and we're not necessarily going to be a part of that, and they absolutely were.
I realize in many cases, especially with your specialty MOSs that they have in the reserve, some of our reserve components folks spend a lot of time activated, a lot of time. What was your kind of your biggest strong point, you think, and realizing your leadership capabilities as you became a captain and a commander? Was there things that you realized you were good at?
Yeah, I think a lot of it really kind of went back to being like, brand new platoon leaders. That if you can, establish the confidence and build rapport with your NCOs, that you can pretty much do anything that you're tasked with. That's really what it was all about. I think so. A lot of it was humility, that you're not going to do it yourself, and if you think you are, you're not. And I could say that's the exact same thing as a battalion commander, from when I was a brigade commander, even now as a deputy commander of a division. It's you still have to rely on a lot of other folks, to help you get things done, and help the unit move in the right direction, take care of families. You can't do it all yourself, and so I think that was a big part of it is understanding that. And I think those strong ties and bonds are made, as a young officer with really solid NCOs in the 82nd. That went a long way. And you try to replicate that as best I could, in my time in the reserves.
Were you a good shot? Do you?
No.
No.
No. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm the problem with our ammunition forecast for the units, because you have to allocate 3-4 times for me. So, one thing I was fortunate about, well, again, humility. I'm being honest. But one thing you got to be. One thing I think I was fortunate of is in the reserve component. I always had a lot of law enforcement officers, and so I'd always get with them real quick. The police officers, the state troopers, the FBI folks. I'm like, hey, listen, this is not going to end well unless you help me.
That's right. There's always the skillcraft option, right?
Exactly. And look, my MOS or my branch is 14 Alpha. I'm air defense. Those are heat-seeking missiles. You just have to be in the general area, and the missile does the rest. So, hey, look, you got to be honest, or you got to be honest, right?
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. So, what are you good at that maybe we wouldn't realize or wouldn't think that you were good at? Do you have a hidden skill or a talent or musical instrument or something like that?
I don't know about that. No, I think it's a lot. Again, a lot of it goes back to talents. For certainly not musical, and I don't think my wife's logged on. But if you say dancing, she'd really laugh. But no, I don't know that there's any specific talent or anything that I have. I think a lot of it's trying to be trying to be open with people, and like I said, trying to build that rapport with people. You've got to know what you're good at and what you're not, and what you can do and what you can't. Not get over your head. And I think I've learned a lot of that, and that's kind of helped me in both my military side and my civilian side. Yeah, when my brother-in-law just texted me, say golf, but I don't know if you saw my handicap. I don't know that golf is necessarily my top skill.
Yeah, right. And golf is what we spend the most amount of money and time on. It doesn't mean we're good at it, right?
Exactly.
I'm thinking of taking up disc golf, right? Disc golf, you do the same kinds of things, but you don't have to, pay, and nobody has to water the course all the dang time.
That's right.
What, tell me about your civilian job. What kinds of things do you do? Are you in the financial markets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm a portfolio manager for an asset management firm. So I manage portfolios of bonds for mostly for individuals, but also for some institutions. And then I also am a team manager for another eight professionals that are basically doing the same thing. So we manage accounts in the southeastern U.S., pretty much down to the Southwest, for that matter. And again, mostly for individuals, but we do also some institutional management. And it's interesting. It's a different type of battle. You realize there's some things you can't control, and some things you can. So it's I think where the military side has come in. It kind of keeps you grounded, and accept what you can change, and you accept what you can't change. And doesn't mean the stress level doesn't jump, but it's been interesting. And thankfully the financial sector I have found to be very, very supportive of the military, for the various firms that I've worked for. And so through deployments or through military, either personal obligations or through other organizations that they're involved in, very, very supportive along the way.
Well, I just want to let you know that Joe and I and formerforce.com were very progressive, and we are currently the owners of some Ethereum.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, I think
there you go. Yeah. So watch out. And if you want investment advice, you call me. I know. Yeah, because Joe and I, we know all about it, because we're into crypto. We're into crypto. We're gonna make some NFTs somehow too, and we're gonna get the virtual goggles, and we're gonna have some kind of a virtual room hangout. A Marshall in the Middle Heroes I Know virtual hangout too.
I
That's
like
in the
it.
future. Yeah, that's when we're on Mars, colonized with Elon. Yeah, we'll all
Okay.
be twittering together.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, so tell me, I just you just listed off a bunch of jobs that are just I don't. It's just hard to like say, okay, battery commander, battalion commander, brigade commander, and now I'm the assistant division commander, right? That's just wow. You just blow my mind. Tell me. Yeah, I mean, just share with me, if you don't mind, some thoughts about those kinds of the importance and the challenges and the things you learned about those kinds of jobs.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely interesting. It's been yeah, and again, my wife keeps me grounded because she knew me when I was a second lieutenant. So she's sometimes she even shakes her head. She's like, I remember you from when you were a second lieutenant walking the halls of Charlie Battery. So
Cold
and,
steel.
and then she'll start rattling off names of Stout and Marshall and Costello and Schmidt, and you know it's yeah. So it can get a little scary, but I mean yeah, it's it's pretty surreal. I think looking back on it now. Sometimes I'll look at my uniform when I'm packing it to go to, again, I drill on the other side of the country, but, when I'm packing my uniform thinking like, I can't believe, one, I'm still doing this after 25 years, and two, I'm wearing a colonel rank and I'm in the position I'm in. And, but, again, a lot of it I think is really remembering how you got there. And it's not me individually, it's everyone I've ever worked with in the military. And, as I mentioned in the beginning, with all you sergeants who picked me up and showed me how to be a lieutenant, and then kind of figured out, stumbled into being the captain ranks. But yeah, I think, and then again on the officer side too, I think I had, some really good mentorship there that, said you should aspire to do whatever's next. And you sort of face that, that challenge. And I think part of it is you realize it after the last job you had. And I remember we were doing an officer PT. Sometime I was probably first lieutenant at the time, second lieutenant, and it was Lieutenant Colonel Seward at the time, near the end of his battalion command. And I remember him telling us, listen, one of the things we do in the Army is like, just as you get really good at a job, like what do? We move you to something else. So you become the best squad leader, you become the best platoon leader. As soon as you're getting right on that glide path and just like, this is too easy, I can do anything. What we do, we pick you up and move you to something else. We constantly make you uncomfortable. And it's right. And as an assistant division commander, now I'm probably the best brigade commander I could have been, because now I have time to reflect upon it and think about it. I'm like, gosh, those are some really dumb things I did, or, I should have done that, or this was really working. Why didn't I do that more? And, so that's what I would share with everybody. And that goes beyond the military. It goes to your civilian job or your personal relationships, or, whatever it is you do. You realize it sort of after the fact, after you've had time. And so I'd say anytime you get a chance to take a pause and think about what you're doing now, and really kind of just take that in today, enjoy it, because unfortunately you don't enjoy a lot of that stuff until later. Lots of times you're counting down the days till the end of a position or whatever it is you're working on, if it's a project at work or whatnot. And then later you realize like how good it was and all the great points. And so yeah, it becomes pretty surreal when I put my uniform in my suitcase to fly across the country. I see the eagle, and I'm like, I mean, I was just happy to make it to first lieutenant. So, but again, I look at it as it's not me that got it there alone. It's really everyone that I've ever interacted with in the military, either directly or indirectly.
So, who is the good idea fairy in your relationship, you or Elizabeth?
Oh, Elizabeth by far.
Yeah. So she's got the good ideas, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have good ideas from time to time, but then I'm corrected. So
we gotta keep you grounded right where you need to be. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Take an opportunity. You talked a little bit about your parents and your brothers and sisters. Share a little bit more about your mom and your dad, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So yeah, again, growing up small town. Both were teachers, so for anyone listening, if you think teachers in the same school district that you're in, and it's a small school district, so they're going to know anything about you before you know anything about you, basically, because all your teachers and the teachers around you are their peers, and they're small groups, so they're also their personal friends. But yeah, so my mom is from Central New York originally, also small town, and my dad was actually an Air Force brat growing up, so he actually moved around. So really, my only direct contact with military or understanding of what that's like was his experiences, and he had lived in various places in the U.S. and in England growing up. So that was somewhat shaping in terms of at least thinking about being in the military, because again, for a lot of folks, either you knew that was a path you wanted to go, or you didn't. It was that really that simple. There weren't a whole lot of folks that from our town that decide I'm going to go to college, do ROTC, go to become an officer. That was just sort of happened, for lack of a better term. Again, here I am 25 years later. They've always been very supportive. My dad passed away a number of years ago. My mom's still in upstate New York, but very influential growing up, very supportive, even though they didn't have necessarily that direct military influence, or they weren't tied into a military installation of any type. But very supportive nonetheless. And of course, the schools they were in when I was deployed were super supportive. So that was great.
Do you have a mentor, other than your dad growing up or early in your military career that really helped you or shaped you?
Yeah, I think all along I've had different mentors, and you sort of just kind of keep adding them, not necessarily one single mentor. Certainly some coaches along the way, being involved in sports. And those who very early on kind of tell you, hey, look, you're 5'6", you love football, but you're not playing in the NFL. So those types that give you that early reality check, put you on the right path. And and then certainly in the military, some of those senior officers, and not necessarily the most senior officers, but just some battery commanders, who I tried to emulate, later on as I moved through, even on the reserve side, try to emulate what they did and what they continue to do. And then some more senior officers. Sometimes you have those mentors who don't even know they're your mentors. You just you follow them along and you try to do some things. Yeah, I know. Like for one, I remember like Lieutenant Colonel Anderson, Joe Anderson, who was the 2505 commander when we were Second Platoon Charlie Battery, and then I ended up pinning on Colonel when I was in the Pentagon, and he was Lieutenant General Anderson. And so you sort of see that, and you see that path that some of those really successful folks take. And unfortunately, he wasn't there to do that day. But it is interesting to be able to watch that and emulate that, and see how they've done things well, and when they make mistakes, and they share that with you.
Oh yeah. It is an amazing kind of journey that we're on. If you could, like, I don't know, give yourself advice 10 years from now, but you do it now, what advice would you give yourself for in 10 years?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, look, my wife is big on this too. It's like, you've got to live now. You got to live life now. I think we all know people who've either passed too soon, or they've had a career in too soon, or something's happened that's been out of their control. So you really have to appreciate what's around you today, and what you can actually, what you should enjoy. You should enjoy being in the moment as much as possible, and that's something that in this. Definitely in the military, things are moving 100 miles an hour. In the financial sector that I'm in, things are moving 100 miles an hour, and you can really lose perspective pretty quickly. So I think it's all a matter of, again, every opportunity you get, live in the moment, and appreciate what's around you. Yeah, I know my my wife is big on trying to impress that upon me. I'm good about that sometimes, not as much as probably she would like, or I should be, but I think that's something important. And then I think too, for anything that you wish you had done but haven't done, it's never too late. You need to do it. If you regret not doing it 10 years ago or 20 years ago, well, then do it now. And it's you may have wished you had done it before, but you'll be really happy 10 years from now that you did it today.
Amen. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it very much. What does what does the future hold? Do you have something that you're looking forward to?
So it's interesting. It's been obviously an interesting couple of years here with with the pandemic as it affected not only the U.S. but the world. So we went from I was traveling nonstop. Elizabeth was in the education in the education field, and then everything stopped, and I would travel all the time, and all of a sudden we didn't. And in fact, you could barely leave your house. It felt like for a while, but that also kind of gave a chance to reset. And so it's afforded me the time to kind of refocus, personally and professionally. And for her, it's great. She actually left the education field and is pursuing another master's degree. She already has one master's degree, but that's not enough. So she's doing a second in counseling, and her specialty is actually in military families and veterans. And so,
Oh, wow.
because her involvement with both myself as well as everybody here, one way or another, she felt that she had a lot to give back to the community, and she really certainly understands and relates to that. So we're looking forward to her finishing that degree and setting out on that new career here in a couple of years. I guess about a couple more years until she sets out, but really influencing the military community and the veteran community. And personally, I'm happy doing what I'm doing in the reserves, and my civilian job. Just every day is a new day in that field. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Well, call me if you need any advice on crypto and stuff.
I
Put
got
me
your
on
number.
speed dial. Yeah. we it's an interesting, kind of circumstances that we find ourselves as you're a current warrior. You are a current asset of the United States government, that you've raised your hand, and I appreciate that. Thank you. You're a hero. You're a true hero. You've always been a hero ever since you showed up. Cold steel, prepare to move forward, right? I mean, what great times and great memories. It is hard to describe the type of character that we had in our platoons in back in the day. We were willing to jump a thing that was bigger than we were, and to go hump off with just the two of us up on a hill somewhere where we didn't know if we were going to get resupply. We didn't know if we were going to have communications. We were just going to go try to kill the enemy, right? And that's what we were. That's what we wanted to do. And I mean, you called the net Bivens and tumor. It's amazing the folks that we had and what we were willing to do. We didn't realize it at the time. We were just whatever, we'll do whatever. But looking back on it, we were gladiators for our country. Right. And you continue to be a gladiator for our country. So thank you. And I pray for all the people that are in any kind of harm's way, and we pray for peace. And that's what we hope for.
Yeah.
What is it that that drives your patriotism? Is there? I'm not a big flag waver all the time, but you see behind me, I got flags. I'm obviously patriotic. Yeah. What do you consider yourself? Ultra patriotic?
It's funny. I do, and I was just talking about this actually, not long ago with a couple of folks, not from the 82nd, but some reserve folks that I know that are in this area, and then actually Mark Gunther. I don't know if you remember him from. I think he was in Alpha Battery for a while in headquarters. So he actually works for our firm. And after he retired, he came to work for us, and so he's good friends with him still, and I talked to him quite a bit. And it's we're said it in conversation. Sometimes it's hard to explain. It's like when people they ask me all the time, like, well, how long are you in the reserves for? Well, I guess I could leave anytime I wanted. I've been in 25 years, so no one's going to stop me. It's just a matter of time until retirement paperwork processes. But I don't feel that need to leave, and not necessarily that I'm looking for trouble or looking for to do something specific, but there's just that attachment to I think to a cause that's bigger than yourself. That is difficult to describe sometimes, and I think maybe during the heights of the Iraq and Afghan wars, where a lot of us, served, one or multiple times, and you had that constant need, and you didn't feel that you didn't want to leave because you knew that you had brothers and sisters going over, and families were having to deal with that back here or somewhere. And that's some of that, of course, has kind of gone away over the last couple of years. That attachment has dissipated a bit, but there's still that attachment, and to some degree, I feel like it's to that next generation of soldiers, and I see that now even when I go to our battle assemblies, those young soldiers that are part of the headquarters company, that are only, it's scary too. Like when I was a brigade commander in a basic training unit, and you see the birth dates of those privates coming in, and you start to realize just how young they are and how much experience you have, and you feel like sense of like ownership, and you almost have to shepherd them to make them understand that they could also have to step in harm's way at some point, either voluntarily or involuntarily or expected or unexpectedly, and you feel a sense of responsibility to that, to those individual soldiers, then more broadly, I think to the units and to the country. So I think that's what does it for me. It's not necessarily one specific thing that did it. It's just sort of the whole situation, and then I've been around it so long. It's sort of like your interview, I think, with Command Sergeant Major Albright. So, I joined the Army. I just forgot to get out. So, I think I'm sort of the same way when I think about it. I just haven't had a reason to leave. So I'll just keep on keeping on until until I'm told I can't anymore.
Oh my gosh. Well, sir, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I really have had a blast. I really have. One of the things that we do as part of this is salute and sign out. I'd love it if I could get you to say a few words and give us a hand salute and sign out, and then we'll play a little gas can rag and call it a night.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate this for just the opportunity. I was honored when you contacted me earlier this week and asked me to join the interview tonight. Quickly send out the link to many friends, and I've seen a couple already log in, or many have vowed to log into the recording. So really appreciate that, and a lot of them are not even military. A lot have just joined just due to their interest and their support from their position in life. So just glad to share that. Really glad to share it with all the all the veterans that are on the line, any family members, and it's again an honor to serve the country, honor to serve the soldiers and the families. So with that, I'll give you a salute there, Sergeant Marshall.
Oh, I love it, sir. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, sir. I appreciate it. Love you, love you, love you. Oh my gosh, Colonel Ryan Nielsen, everybody.
Thank you.